I commute an hour and 10 minutes each way on Interstate 76. A gray sedan has been 2 cars ahead of me every morning for 8 months. Late 1980s model. Rust at the rear quarter panel. License plate Ohio Charlie Mike Whiskey 472. I noticed it for the first time in late September. I have run the plate through every public database I can reach. It is retired. The car attached to the plate was a 1987 Buick LeSabre that my grandfather sold for scrap in 1994. I watched the crusher fold it flat. I was 9 years old. Interstate 76 runs from Akron east toward Pennsylvania. The stretch I drive is 2 lanes in each direction with 1 rest stop and 3 exits over 47 miles. The traffic is heavy at 6 a.m. I take the same on-ramp every morning at 5:52 from a town called Marsh Lake. I take the same off-ramp at 7:04 near the office in Youngstown. The car in question is always 2 cars ahead of me by the time I clear the on-ramp. It is always 2 cars ahead when I take the off-ramp. It does not seem to enter or exit. It is simply already there. I installed the Dashcam in 2023 after a deer hit. The footage goes to a small SD card that overwrites every 4 days. My insurance carrier requires me to keep the camera running for any claim. I do not watch the footage. I am supposed to. I never do. Last September the camera flagged an unusual frame because of a brake light pattern ahead. The system pushed a notification to my phone. I opened the clip out of curiosity. The gray sedan was in it. The plate was clearly visible. I recognized the plate the same way I would recognize a phone number I dialed every day as a child. My grandfather drove a 1987 Buick LeSabre from the year he bought it new until the year he was no longer permitted to drive. The car had a salvage history after a snow ditch incident in 1993. The plate was the original plate from 1987. He kept the plate when the car went to the scrapyard. He kept it in a kitchen drawer in his apartment until he passed in 2001. The drawer is in my mother's basement now. The plate is still in it. I have walked downstairs and checked. I have held it in my hands. I have read the digits aloud while standing on the dashcam footage at the same time. I assumed the dashcam had misread the plate. License plate recognition is unreliable. The sedan ahead of me could have a similar plate from a different state. I drove to a service station 3 exits down the highway and bought a second dashcam with higher resolution. I mounted it the next morning. The gray sedan was ahead of me. The new camera captured the plate cleanly in 8 separate frames. Ohio. Charlie Mike Whiskey 472. White lettering on a sunset background. The exact format of the plate Ohio used from 1984 to 1998. The format itself is retired. There is no living plate that uses it. I drove to the office shaking. I called the Ohio Bureau of Motor Vehicles that afternoon. The clerk pulled the plate from her system. She told me it was a retired plate. She told me it had been retired in 1994. She told me the last registered owner had been a man named Earl Pickett. That was my grandfather. I asked her if the plate could have been reissued. She told me Ohio does not reissue retired sunset plates. I asked her if any vehicle was currently authorized to carry it. She paused for a long time and then said no vehicle should be carrying it. She asked me if I had seen one. I told her I had been seeing one every morning for 8 months. I left the office early the next Tuesday. I rejoined the highway at the on-ramp where the sedan first appeared in my morning footage. The gray sedan was already 2 cars ahead. I let the cars between us peel off at the rest stop. I closed the distance. I followed it for 9 miles. It took an exit I had passed every day for 12 years and never used. The exit dropped me on a state route through farmland toward a town I had never heard of. The sedan turned into the parking lot of an auto body shop with the sign torn off the front. There were no other cars in the lot. The shop was clearly closed and had been for years. I parked across the street. The sedan was still running. I could hear the idle from where I sat. I walked across the road. The driver door opened from the inside. There was nobody behind it. I looked into the cabin. The bench seat was the original red cloth my grandfather had it in. There was a road map folded on the passenger seat. The map was open to a page showing Marsh Lake. There was a coffee mug from my grandfather's kitchen in the cup holder. The mug had a small chip on the rim shaped like a thumb print. I have known that chip my whole life. I closed the door. The engine kept running. I walked back to my car. On my way home I stopped at a diner on the same county road. I sat at the counter and waited for my heart to slow. The man at the booth behind me wore a brown wool coat my grandfather had worn the entire winter of 1990. The coat had a small cigarette burn on the left cuff. I did not turn around for 10 minutes. When I finally did, the booth was empty. The plate on the table was eaten clean. There was no waitress on shift who remembered serving him. The bill had not been paid. The check had a tip in cash. The handwriting on the tip line was the handwriting from my grandfather's birthday cards. I now drive the long way to work. The route adds an hour and 10 minutes each direction. I have asked my supervisor to move me onto the late shift so the new commute starts later. He agreed. The dashcam footage from the new commute is clean. No gray sedan. No plate. My mother asked me last Sunday why I no longer take the highway. I did not tell her the truth. She showed me a photograph in her album the same evening. It was my grandfather at the wheel of the LeSabre in 1990. Behind him, in the rear-view mirror, you can see another car following him. A small gray sedan. The plate is mine.